Don't look back, Wendell. That's what I told myself. I repeated it like a prayer as I pushed through the double doors of that cursed club, neon pink exit sign buzzing above me like it was laughing. But of course I looked. She was still dancing with him, still smiling, still swaying like nothing had just shattered. Her bare shoulders glowing under the strobes, her mouth close to his ear. The same mouth that told me last week, "You're all I need." I wanted her to see me walking out. I wanted her to notice, to flinch, to run after me. She didn't. Instead, some guy handed her a drink, and she laughed. Not the quiet laugh she gives when she's nervous. The real one. The belly one. The one she used to save for me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't alcohol. This wasn't a misread moment. This was warfare, and I was the only one bleeding. You ever watch your own life fold in half while music plays in the background, like it's some art piece? That's what it felt like. That DJ spinning remixes of songs I didn't recognize, bodies moving in rhythm, and me, standing there with my stupid button-up sticking to my back, heart pounding like I just ran a marathon through shame. I didn't say a word. Not when she grabbed his hand. Not when they laughed like I wasn't 4 feet away. Not when her eyes met mine, and she looked through me. Do you understand what that does to a man? I don't care how soft or sensitive or in touch with your emotions you are. That moment, when the woman who swore to grow old with you stares at you like you're the waiter who got her drink order wrong. That moment can turn anyone into stone. I should have left sooner. I should have seen the signs. But I was busy Googling anniversary gifts while she was busy learning new dance moves with some guy named Logan, who, by the way, wears rings on both thumbs. That should have been a red flag. So I walked. No drama. No confrontation. Just air that smelled like spilled gin and betrayal. My feet hurt. My ears rang. And still I walked. I made it to the parking lot. Unlocked the car. Sat inside and stared at the wheel like it owed me answers. And then, my phone lit up. Speech balloon Haley, where are you? No, are you okay? No, can we talk? Just where are you? Like I had disappeared from a party, not from our life. I didn't answer. I turned the key in the ignition, looked at the rearview mirror, and that's when I saw her. Standing barefoot in the lot. Mascara smudged. Breathing hard. Her dress clinging to her like desperation. She looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Maybe she had. Because the man she thought would never leave finally did. But that's not even the crazy part. You're going to need to sit down for what came next. She stood there, framed by the red glow of brake lights, breathing like she had just sprinted through a nightmare. Her eyes darted across the lot until they found me. And I swear to God, they weren't filled with guilt. Not sadness. Not even anger. They were full of panic. I thought for a second, maybe, just maybe, she realized she went too far. Maybe she finally felt what I'd been feeling for the last 6 months. The loneliness in our own kitchen. The one-sided conversations. The nights she turned away from me like I was the stranger in her bed. I hoped, like a fool, that her regret was for what she did to us. But that's not why she ran. She reached the driver's side window and knocked. I didn't move. I couldn't. I sat there, fingers frozen on the steering wheel, waiting to see what version of Haley would show up. The loving wife? The manipulator? The liar? She mouthed something. I couldn't hear her. I rolled the window down an inch. Where did you go? She asked, like I had disappeared mid-conversation at a brunch table. I left, I said, voice dry. Didn't want to interrupt your performance. Her face twitched. Not with shame, no. With fear. She glanced over her shoulder, back toward the building. Then leaned closer. Logan doesn't know I came out here, she whispered. That was when it hit me. She wasn't chasing me. She was hiding from him. My stomach dropped. She opened the passenger door and slipped inside like we were on the run. Her hands trembled as she pulled her phone from her bag and silenced it. I watched her face as it lit up from the screen, unread messages piling up. What's going on, Haley? I asked, barely above a whisper. She didn't answer, just sat there staring at her screen, jaw tight, like she was calculating how much truth she could afford to tell without setting fire to everything. And then she said something I didn't expect. He wasn't supposed to show up tonight. I blinked. What? She turned to me slowly, eyes wide, haunted. Logan. He wasn't on the guest list. He wasn't even supposed to be in town. I don't know how he found out. It took me a moment to process that. This whole time, I thought she was sneaking off to dance with him, flirting with him in front of me, choosing him over me. But now, I wasn't sure if this was betrayal or fear. Who is he to you, Haley? I asked, voice shaking. And I don't mean a friend. I don't mean someone from work. I mean, who is he really? She looked away. That was all the answer I needed. And yet, I still waited. Like an idiot. I wanted to hear her say it. I wanted to know how long I'd been the punchline to someone else's joke. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. It was supposed to be over. She said it like a confession. Like something rotten she'd been keeping in her throat for weeks. Maybe months. I told him I chose you, she said, barely audible. I told him I wasn't going to leave you. I thought he understood. I let the silence hang there. Let it wrap around us like fog. My chest felt hollow, but my mind was racing. She'd been cheating on me. That much was clear now, but it wasn't just some mistake. It wasn't one drunken night. This was a second life she'd built on top of ours. A man who wasn't supposed to show up. A plan to walk away from him. A performance that got out of control. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. So tonight was your goodbye party? I asked, finally turning toward her. You wanted me to see it? One last show before you locked him out of your life? No, Wendell, she said quickly. That's not. I didn't know he'd come. I didn't invite him. I didn't dance with him on purpose. He grabbed my hand. It happened fast. I shook my head. But you didn't stop it either. Her silence said everything. Outside, the music kept thumping. The front door of the club cracked open and Logan's silhouette appeared under the flashing lights. He was looking around, searching. Haley's breath hitched. And that's when I realized something even worse than betrayal. She wasn't afraid I would leave. She was afraid he wouldn't. I never used to believe that people could change overnight. I always thought it was gradual, like rust on metal. You don't notice it until the whole thing crumbles. But sitting in that car, with Haley shaking beside me and Logan prowling the lot like a lion sniffing out prey, I started to feel like I had changed. Not over months. Not over years. But right there, in a parking lot that smelled like burnt rubber and bad decisions. I stared at my own reflection in the rearview mirror, and I didn't recognize the man looking back at me. My face was pale. My lips pressed tight. Eyes sunken, tired. But there was something else, too. Something colder. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was alert. Awake. Like someone had finally shut off the dream I'd been living in, and now I was seeing things as they really were. Haley kept glancing toward the club entrance like he might leap out at any moment. Her fingers clenched the edge of her dress, like she was trying to wring the night out of it. I could see the truth starting to bleed through her face, but she still wouldn't give it all to me. She wanted to keep just enough control to spin the story later. Still calculating. Still holding on to the illusion that she could fix this without being honest. I turned to her and asked, "How long has this been going on?" She froze, blinked, then looked at me like a student caught cheating on a test they didn't study for. "Wendell, don't Wendell me. Just answer." Her eyes darted to the floor of the car. 7 months. I nodded. That number hit harder than I thought it would. 7 months. That meant Logan wasn't a fling. He wasn't a mistake. He was a replacement. 7 months ago was when we stopped having Sunday breakfasts. When she started working late. When she started locking her phone. When I caught her crying in the bathroom at 2 a.m. and she told me it was just stress. 7 months ago, she began the process of emotionally burying me while keeping me around like a prop. I leaned back in my seat and exhaled slowly through my nose. I didn't yell. I didn't hit the steering wheel or throw my keys. I just sat there and listened to my own pulse roaring in my ears. She finally whispered, "It wasn't supposed to go this far." God, I hated that line. The coward's motto. As if length was the problem. As if this would have been okay if she'd just cut it off after a couple of weeks. It wasn't the timeline that broke me. It was the choice she made every single day for 7 months to keep the lie alive. To come home, smile at me, lay next to me, and live a double life without blinking. And now she was in my car, not because she loved me, but because something had gone wrong with him. Because Logan had shown up uninvited. And now her carefully balanced house of cards was crumbling. She needed me because he scared her, and that scared me. "What did you mean when you said he wasn't supposed to be here?" I asked, finally breaking the silence. She hesitated, then glanced toward the club again. "He's been different lately. Obsessive." I told him I was ending things. That I was going to fix my marriage. He didn't take it well. Define didn't take it well, I said. She didn't answer. Just turned her head away, eyes glassy. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. Unknown. You really thought you could keep her? I felt a cold shiver crawl down my spine. Haley saw it too. Her face went white. Is that him? I asked. She didn't respond, but her silence was loud enough. I turned the ignition off. We weren't going anywhere. Not until I understood what kind of storm we were caught in. Not until I got answers. Tell me everything, Haley, I said, more calmly than I felt. Start from the beginning. No more lies. No more soft versions. I want the truth. Because if that guy out there thinks you're still his, I need to know how deep this goes. She looked at me like a cornered animal. Then finally, she nodded. I met him at a co-working space last year. At first, it was nothing. Just talking. Then drinks. Then more. He told me I deserved more. That you were cold. Distant. Predictable. He made me feel like I mattered again. Like someone saw me. I winced, but let her continue. At first it was exciting. Then it got intense. He'd show up where I didn't tell him to. He started getting possessive. Told me I didn't need to work things out with you. That you were the problem. When I told him I was ending it for real, he showed up to my work. Said he'd ruin everything if I left. And now he's here, I said quietly. At this club. Watching. She nodded slowly. The buzzing returned, this time louder. My phone lit up again. Unknown. You should talk to her about Tuesday. What the hell happened Tuesday? I asked, holding the phone toward her. Her eyes widened, and she immediately looked away. I don't know what I expected her to say, but I do know one thing. Whatever happened Tuesday, it's going to change everything. Haley didn't speak. She didn't move. She just sat there with her head turned toward the windshield, breathing through her nose like she was counting in her mind, not to calm herself, but to buy time. Her hands were in her lap, clenched so tightly the skin around her knuckles had gone pale. And still I waited. Outside the car, Logan was gone. Vanished. Either back into the club or somewhere in the shadows, and that somehow made it worse. A known threat, you can brace for. But someone who slips out of view? That's someone planning something. I turned my phone over and looked at the message again. You should talk to her about Tuesday. The words were still glowing on the screen when Haley finally said, it wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't interrupt. I didn't ask. I just sat there and let her fill the silence. We hadn't talked for 2 weeks. I told him we were done. He blocked me. Or at least, I thought he did. Tuesday, he texted me out of nowhere. Said he was in trouble. That he needed to see me one last time. Just to explain. Just to say goodbye. I didn't respond at first. But I don't know. Maybe I felt guilty. Maybe I just wanted closure. I blinked slowly, forcing myself not to speak. My fingers dug into the steering wheel. We met at that coffee shop on Harper. She continued, still not looking at me. I thought it would be a quick conversation. But he wasn't there to talk. He said he missed me. Said he couldn't stop thinking about me. Then he gave me this necklace. Said it belonged to his mother and that I should wear it if I ever needed protection. I scoffed. Protection? From what, Haley? From me? No, she said instantly, finally facing me again. No, Wendell. That's not what he meant. He said there were people watching him. That his phone was tapped. He was spiraling. He was paranoid. I tried to leave, but he blocked the door and told me that if I walked out, I'd regret it. That you would regret it. Now my stomach twisted. Wait, he threatened me? She swallowed hard. I don't know if it was a threat or just manipulation. He said it in passing, like it was casual. But the way he looked at me, I didn't like it. So I told him I was done, shoved the necklace back at him, and walked out. I nodded, slowly. Everything in my body was buzzing. I could barely process all of it at once. I tried to hold on to each fact, the coffee shop, the necklace, the threat, but they kept slipping through my fingers like sand. Why didn't you tell me this on Tuesday? I asked. She didn't answer. Why didn't you tell me any of this before tonight? Still nothing. Were you protecting me? Or were you protecting yourself? Haley looked like she was on the verge of breaking down, but part of me wondered if the tears were real or just another act. Because something about her timeline wasn't sitting right. If Logan was blocked, how did he get her number again? Why did he know we were going to the lounge tonight? How was he still this involved if she had truly cut it off? I opened my phone again and scrolled through the last message. You should talk to her about Tuesday. And then, a new one appeared beneath it. Unknown. Check her purse. I read it twice. My heart pounded in my throat. What's in your bag? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Her eyes shot toward it instantly. And that was enough. I reached across the center console before she could react, grabbed the small black clutch she'd brought, and pulled it onto my lap. She reached out. Wendell, please. But I was already opening it. There, inside, tucked behind her wallet and a compact mirror, was a thin silver chain with a small oval pendant. Something old, ornate. The necklace. You said you gave this back to him. She froze. I did. I swear. Then why is it in your bag, Haley? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked terrified, and now I didn't know what to think. Was she lying to him? To me? To both of us? Or was someone playing a game I hadn't even realized I was part of? Another buzz. My phone lit up again. Unknown, you should have stayed at home tonight. I looked out the windshield into the night. Everything was still. Too still. Then I saw it. A black SUV. Parked across the lot. Engine running. Lights off. It hadn't been there earlier. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just a love triangle anymore. This was something else entirely. The SUV sat there like a predator. Lights off. Engine humming low. Windows blacked out. I couldn't see who was inside, but I felt it. That weight in the air. That thick, invisible tension that says you're being watched. Haley shifted in her seat, but she hadn't seen it yet. She was still staring at the necklace in my hand like it might explode. She hadn't even tried to explain herself, which only made the silence louder. I stared at the pendant again. It was cold and heavier than it looked, like it was made of something old. Not just expensive, significant. The kind of thing someone gives when they want to leave a mark on you. I wasn't sure if Logan gave it out of love or possession, but either way, she said she left it with him. And now here it was, tucked inside her bag like a secret waiting to be discovered. I tossed it onto the dashboard. Haley flinched as it slid against the plastic and came to rest against the windshield. The sound echoed like a final verdict. I turned back to her. Either you're lying, or he's getting into your stuff. So which is it, Haley? She swallowed hard. I didn't put it in there. I swear. I left it on the table at the coffee shop. I walked out. I never took it back. And you didn't check your bag once since Tuesday? Didn't notice a strange object magically reappearing among your lipstick and keys? I didn't look, she snapped. Okay. I didn't want anything to remind me of him. I was trying to forget all of it. Well, that didn't go very well, did it? I said, nodding toward the SUV. She finally followed my gaze. Her face turned ashen. Her hand slowly moved to the door handle, like she was ready to jump out and run. Is that him? She whispered. I don't know, I said. But he knows my number. Knows where we are. Knows about Tuesday. And now he's just sitting there. What do we do? She asked. It was the first time all night she sounded like she needed me. Not emotionally, practically. Like I was the only one left who wasn't a threat. It was a strange feeling. I had spent months feeling like dead weight in her life. Background noise. And now, suddenly, I was the only safe place she had. I don't know yet, I admitted. The SUV didn't move. Not an inch. No headlights. No engine rev. Just stillness. It was almost worse than if it had come charging at us. It wasn't intimidation. It was a message. I'm not in a rush. I've got time. I started the car, hoping the sound of our engine might spook him. No reaction. I turned on the headlights. Still nothing. The windows remained pitch black. Okay, I muttered. He wants us to react. He's waiting for it. What if he follows us? Haley asked. Then let him. At least we'll know what direction the crazy's coming from. We pulled out of the parking spot slowly. My headlights washed over the lot, bouncing off empty cars and concrete barriers. As we passed the SUV, I risked one glance at the tinted glass. Still nothing. No outline. No silhouette. Whoever was inside didn't flinch. Didn't even pretend to be casual. It was like staring at a monolith. We turned out onto the road and drove in silence. I kept checking the mirror. For 3 blocks, the SUV didn't follow. Haley kept asking if I was sure. I wasn't. But then, just as we reached the traffic light at Camden and 11th, I saw them. Headlights. Far back. 2 cars behind. No turn signals. No lane change. He was following us. Okay, I said. This is happening. Haley looked ready to burst. Where are we going? Somewhere public. Somewhere he won't try anything. She shook her head. No. No, we can't go somewhere obvious. What if he makes a scene? I don't care if he makes a scene, Haley, I said through gritted teeth. Let him do it under a security camera, with witnesses. I'm not going to play this game in the dark with a guy who sends me cryptic texts and plants jewelry in your purse. I turned toward the all-night gas station on 5th and Arrow, the one with the security booth and floodlights. The one where people always linger, where there's always someone awake. As I pulled in, I scanned the rear view. The SUV didn't turn. It kept going. Okay, that's weird, I muttered. Haley looked too scared to speak. I parked by the main window, engine still running. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. Something about the whole situation felt off, staged, almost. I replayed the timing in my head. The text messages. The appearance of the necklace. The sudden vanishing act of the SUV once we reached a safe spot. Then a horrible question crossed my mind. What if this isn't about you? I said aloud. Haley looked at me, confused. What if this isn't about winning you back? I continued. What if it never was? What if he's not obsessed with you? What if he's obsessed with us? With the idea of ruining what we had? Her lips parted, but no words came. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown, smart move. You're learning. Let's see how far you'll go to protect someone who lied to your face. I stared at it. My blood ran cold. What does that mean? Haley asked. I held up the screen for her to see. And right then, I knew. Logan didn't just want her. He wanted me to suffer. He wanted me to turn against her. And worst of all, it was starting to work. I didn't say anything after I showed her the message. I just watched her face as her eyes scanned the words, slowly, like she was trying to convince herself she was reading it wrong. Her hands were shaking again. Maybe from fear. Maybe from guilt. Honestly, I didn't care which anymore. I sat back in my seat and closed my eyes for a second. Just 1 second. The gas station lights poured through the windshield like a spotlight, and for the briefest moment, it felt like we were on a stage. A perfect little set. The broken husband, the haunted wife, and somewhere off-screen, the villain pulling strings we couldn't even see. I opened my eyes and looked at her. What else haven't you told me? I asked, barely above a whisper. Because I'm telling you right now, if I find out something on my own, it's done. No more talking. No more saving face. No more rides home. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned to face the window like she was watching her reflection for answers. There's something in the glove box, she finally said. I stared at her. What? She nodded toward it, still not making eye contact. Just open it. My chest tightened as I reached across. The glove box popped open with a soft click. Inside was a handful of napkins, an old charger, registration papers, and a single white envelope. My name was written on the front in a sharp, practiced handwriting that I instantly knew wasn't Haley's. It said, Wendell, for when you finally open your eyes. I didn't move at first. I just stared at it, like touching it would make it more real. Haley turned back to me, her voice small now. It showed up 2 days ago. I found it in the mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just there. I was going to throw it away, but I got scared. I didn't know what was in it. I didn't know if it was a threat. You didn't think to tell me? I didn't want to make it worse. Worse. That word echoed in my head. Like this wasn't already unrecognizable. Like my life hadn't already been flipped inside out and held over a flame. I pulled the letter out slowly. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind people use when they want something to feel important. I unfolded it and began to read. Wendell, you're not who she says you are. She told me you were dull, that you were a ghost, that you wouldn't notice. And for a while, you didn't. You let her drift, and you didn't anchor her. You let her starve for attention while you fed your routines. But here's the part she didn't expect. I watched you. And I don't think you're weak. Not really. I think you're asleep. I think you're a man who built a world so safe he forgot the wolves existed. She chose me because I knew how to wake her up. And now I'm choosing you, because you need to see who's been sleeping next to you this whole time. Check her phone. Check her texts. But more importantly, check your own security camera footage. Sunday night, 11:42 p.m. Front door. You deserve the truth, even if it kills you. L. I finished reading and stared at the bottom of the page. No smudges. No rushed ink. He'd written it calmly, carefully, like he wasn't worried about the consequences, because in his mind, he wasn't the villain. He was the truth teller. My hands were cold now. I could barely hold the letter. I folded it again and slid it into the console, slowly. Haley was watching me like she already knew what it said. What happened Sunday night? I asked. I was home. You were asleep, she said quickly, but too quickly. Nothing happened. I checked the cameras Monday. Motion alert went off at 11:42 p.m. I thought it was a raccoon. She said nothing. You said you were in the kitchen getting water, I continued. But when I looked at the footage, the camera glitched. For 10 seconds. Just static. I didn't think anything of it. But now, her face went pale. I knew that look. That look people get when they've rehearsed a version of the story so many times that the truth feels like a foreign language. She didn't even bother trying to deny it this time. What happened Sunday night, Haley? Silence. Was he in the house? She closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Then nodded. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the car. I didn't let him in, she said, voice cracking. I swear. I don't know how he got in. I heard something. I went downstairs and he was just there. In the kitchen. Said he used the key under the flower pot. There wasn't a key under the flower pot. I know, she said quietly. But there used to be. Back when we first moved in. I forgot it was even there. You forgot, I repeated, almost laughing. You forgot that the guy you were cheating with might know how to let himself into our house. She looked like she was about to cry. He didn't hurt me. He didn't touch anything. He just stood there and said he wanted to see where I lived. Where you slept. Then he left. He said, now I know where the weak spots are. I stared out the window at the street beyond the gas station. My head was spinning. My heart was pounding. Logan hadn't just crossed a line. He had erased it. Walked into my house. Watched me sleep. Told her he saw the weak spots. And now he was sending letters, tracking our movements, watching us unravel from the sidelines like it was entertainment. I need to see the footage, I said, putting the car into gear. Haley didn't argue. Didn't speak. Just folded her hands in her lap like a passenger on a plane going down. And as we pulled out onto the road, heading home, I realized something else. Logan didn't want to take her from me. He wanted to break me so completely that I gave her up willingly. And worse, I was starting to consider it. We didn't speak on the drive home. The car was filled with the low hum of the engine and a silence so thick it almost made my ears ring. Every turn of the wheels felt like a countdown. Haley sat still, arms crossed, face turned away like she could make the night vanish by refusing to acknowledge it. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Not until I saw it for myself. Not until I hit play and watched the moment everything went sideways while I was asleep under the same roof. The house looked different when we pulled into the driveway. Colder. Smaller. I'd painted that porch with my own hands 2 summers ago. We planted those damn hydrangeas together. And now all I saw was a structure I had let rot from the inside. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, key still in hand. I was trying to breathe, but every inhale felt shallow, like I was taking in smoke instead of air. Stay in the car, I said. Haley didn't argue. I walked up the steps slowly, unlocking the front door with a hand that barely felt like mine. The living room was dark, quiet. Too quiet for a house that had been holding this many secrets. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I went straight to the den, where my desktop sat beneath the window, screens dark, mouse blinking faintly like it had been waiting for me. I moved it, tapped in my password, and pulled up the security footage archives. Sunday, 11:42 p.m. Just like the letter said. There was the thumbnail, a frozen frame of the front door, nothing unusual, just the porch light buzzing in the shadows of the bushes. I clicked play and sat forward, fingers tense on the desk's edge. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Just the normal static hum of night. And then, motion. A figure stepped into frame. I paused it instantly. Rewound. Watched again, frame by frame. Logan. He didn't knock. Didn't hesitate. He moved with confidence, like someone who had every right to be there. He reached beneath the left flower pot and pulled something out. A key. He looked straight into the camera for 1/2 second. Smiled. Then everything went black. The video glitched hard, just like I remembered. 9 seconds of distortion. When the feed returned, the door was slightly ajar and the porch was empty. I checked the interior hallway cam. The screen flickered and then sprang to life. Logan stepped inside quietly, dressed in all black, hands in his coat pockets. He didn't call out. He didn't look around. He just stood in the hallway, staring at the staircase. You couldn't hear sound on these feeds, but something in his posture made it obvious. He was listening. For movement. For breathing. For me. He walked toward the stairs, slowly, deliberately. My office, the room I was sitting in now, would have been to his right. He didn't enter. Just looked at the closed door for a moment, then turned toward the kitchen. The camera there caught him opening the fridge, taking out a bottle of water, and drinking directly from it. Then, and this chilled me, he walked to the living room wall and picked up a framed photo of me and Haley. It was from our 3rd anniversary, smiling at the lake. He stared at it. Then he set it face down on the coffee table. That's when the stairs creaked. Haley appeared at the top. I leaned in. My mouth went dry. She was barefoot, in pajamas. She whispered something, clearly startled, and he looked up at her with a smile that felt wrong. Not joyful, not even romantic. It was something else. Something colder. Possessive. Almost triumphant. She started coming down the stairs. Slowly. Not with the urgency of fear, but like she was trying to handle something delicate. An animal she didn't want to spook. She reached the bottom, arms crossed. She said something again. He nodded, then reached into his coat and pulled out the necklace. He tried to hand it to her. She refused. He insisted. She shook her head. He walked toward her. She backed up. That part was real, not dramatized. She was afraid now. You could see it in her posture, the tension in her shoulders, the way her hand hovered at her side, like she was debating whether to run or slap him. Then he said something, and whatever it was, it made her freeze. She didn't move for 5 full seconds. He stepped forward, leaned in, whispered something into her ear, and then he walked past her, toward the stairs. I froze the frame. My office door was 10 feet away. I had been in there that night, wearing headphones, working late. I could have walked out at any second, could have seen him, could have stopped him, but I didn't. He climbed 2 steps, paused, turned back toward her, and held the necklace out again. This time she took it. The feed cut there. I sat in my chair for what felt like hours, rewatching, rewinding, replaying the same moment over and over, her hand reaching out, taking the chain, the look in her eyes more resignation than fear. She hadn't wanted to, I believed that, but she still did. She had a choice, and she chose not to scream, not to wake me, not to call the cops. She chose silence. Again, I walked back outside, letter still in hand. She was sitting on the porch step, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the ground like she was waiting for her sentence. You lied, I said. You said you left it. Said you pushed him out. I was trying to protect you, she whispered. No, I said, shaking my head. You were trying to protect the version of you that I might still forgive. She didn't argue. I looked down the street. Same SUV. Parked again. Watching. He knew I would find the footage. He wanted me to. And it hit me like a slap. Logan wasn't just trying to hurt me. He was trying to convert me. To bring me into the spiral he'd created. To drag me out of safety and make me live in the same twisted reality as him. One where love was control and silence meant power. I walked back to the front door, turned the key, and looked at her. You're not coming inside. She looked up at me like I'd knocked the wind out of her. Wendell, please. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care, I said quietly. Figure it out. You invited the devil into our house. Now live with the door open. I shut the door, and for the first time all night, I felt awake. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, not exactly. More like my body wouldn't allow it. My mind had hit this strange place where everything felt simultaneously too loud and completely still. I sat in my office until the sun came up, watching the live camera feeds on loop. Front porch, hallway, driveway, over and over. The SUV stayed until 3:17 a.m. Then it was gone. I thought he might try something, that he'd escalate. But he didn't. Not that night. Haley was still gone. I didn't know where she went after I closed the door on her, and I didn't ask. I half expected her to knock again, to call, to beg, but nothing. Silence, which, in its own way, was an answer. Around 9 a.m., I got up, made coffee, and opened the blinds like it was any other Tuesday. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the silence didn't feel suffocating. It felt earned. It felt like a house exhaling after holding its breath too long. I changed the locks that afternoon, tossed the necklace into a locked box in the garage, along with the letter and the footage on a USB drive. I didn't destroy them. I wanted to, believe me, I wanted to. But something told me I'd need them one day. Not for revenge, not even for closure. Just to remember who I was when everything broke. 2 days passed. No texts from Logan. No calls from Haley. No new envelopes in the mailbox. No strange cars idling outside. It was like someone hit pause on the chaos. I stayed home. I took walks. I cleaned. I watched dumb sitcoms. I let the quiet mend the parts of me I hadn't realized were bleeding. Then, on Friday morning, I got one final message. No threats. No riddles. Just a single line. Unknown, you did better than I thought you would. Take care of yourself. I stared at it for a while. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I think he knew the game was over. I think he finally realized I wasn't the man he thought he could break. The police said what I expected. Without a direct threat, without a break-in charge or injury, there wasn't much they could do. But I gave them the footage, filed a report, just in case. And that made it real, like drawing a line between who I used to be and who I was now. A week after that, I got a letter from Haley. Not a text, not a voicemail, a handwritten letter, dropped in the mail like we were living in the 1950s. She apologized, not just for the affair, but for everything. For the slow retreat, for the manipulation, for making me feel invisible. She didn't ask to come back, didn't beg for forgiveness. She just said she hoped I was okay, that she was going to therapy, that she didn't recognize herself anymore and was trying to figure out when she stopped being a good person. I didn't write back. I still haven't. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes closure doesn't come from them. It comes when you stop waiting for the version of them that only existed in your mind. It's been 4 months now. I've started painting again, bought new furniture. I even laughed during a movie last week. Actually laughed, not just that polite exhale we do to feel human. My house is quiet. My mind is quieter. And every time I walk past the front door, I don't feel fear anymore. I feel peace. Logan didn't get to destroy me. Haley didn't get to define me. They both tried to write my ending. But I took the pen back. And this is how the story ends. Not with a fight, not with a breakdown, but with me, free, healing, and finally wide awake.